Look, I think, and gosh, I've had some interesting conversations in the past few weeks, despite the fact it's not getting much coverage in mainstream media. The sort of rejigged, refocused inquiry into the COVID response is underway, and we're now into the public submissions or public hearing stage of that. And it really has, amongst a lot of my friends and family, we are talking about what we went through in COVID. And we are looking back, and I think collectively as a country, and I can remember going to watch the All Blacks play Australia on the day of the 2020 election when Labor got in. There was a real feeling, gosh, the country's free again. We just want to get past it. We want to get on. We want to get back to normal. And whilst there were a significant, small and vocal number of people that I sometimes call the cookers, who were really concerned about the response and what happened, I think the vast majority of us wanted to put it away like a bad memory. And what the inquiry is doing for many of us, myself included, is that I am probably looking more frankly and maybe even harshly at our country's, our government's response to COVID. Part of that, of course, and the cookerish people I mentioned before have a certain obsession with the then Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern. Many of them would like to see her go to prison, which is absolutely ridiculous for what she did as Prime Minister. But there is a question as to whether or not she will appear and give evidence at this inquiry. And I wondered, and apparently they want her to. She's been asked to by the inquiry, but I'm not sure how much power they've got to get her there. And I thought the best person to talk to is our... Oh, if he charged us a bill, he'd be a wealthy man for all the advice we get from him. Graeme Edgeler, who's a lawyer out of Wellington. Graeme, how are you? And don't send me a bill. That wasn't what I was suggesting.
You can buy me lunch next time we meet up.
All right, and okay, that's a deal. Gosh, I'm getting off lightly. Graeme, so I did wonder, what is the legal power of and is it a commission of inquiry or an inquiry or a parliamentary inquiry? How much swing have they got and how much legal power have they got to compel or require testimony?
They have the legal power, the same power as the court. You and your listeners might remember, was it a year ago now, 2 years? Can't remember. The Waitangi Tribunal trying to summons various ministers.
Oh, that's right.
And same powers. That the Waitangi Tribunal is a permanent commission of inquiry. This is a sort of an ad hoc commission of inquiry. Commissions of inquiry, it doesn't matter who they're led by, the Inquiries Act says they can summons. And they usually don't like to do that. They prefer to just, invite people along and sort of, okay, well, you can't do Tuesday, how about 2 weeks later? And, sort of resolve things. Or can you just give us this in writing and answer these questions and you might not need to appear? They try and, historically always try and work through that way. But if they are not getting the answers they want in at least some form, they have the power to issue a summons, and the breach of a summons, failing to answer a summons is not particularly serious, but is still a criminal offence.
All right. Do you have the right to legal representation when you appear before such an inquiry? Can you get them to pay for it? Because I would just imagine you might be worried about going up between a bunch of people who want to grill you.
That is, I think, what usually happens. If you need a lawyer, part of the reason, how does it cost so much money? You see how much, you always sort of, the government's going to spend this much on the inquiry. And part of that is if the inquiry is sort of requiring you to give evidence, they will pay some of a lawyer for you. Not sort of full commercial rates, slightly more. Crown rates, I think, is the usual sort of number. So it's a bit higher than legal aid, but not sort of full commercial rates. The sort of the rates that Crown Law charges itself out to government departments. That's been sort of the historical, sort of the 2 or 3 instances I know of. Someone went before them. They gave you a bit of a lawyer to help out. In this case, it's possibly not necessary because I suspect that because this, Jacinda Ardern or Chris
Hipkins,
Hipkins, and sort of some of the others, they are being interviewed and inquired into, and because it was something they did while they were the minister or the prime minister. And so when that happens, the same way, if a minister or former minister gets sued, they tend to just Crown law represents them because it was something they did because
Chris
they were
Hipkins
a minister.
has said he's been asked questions and he's providing written responses, but he's kind of thumbed his nose at the inquiry. He says it's a platform for conspiracy theorists.
Well, I mean, like the legal question there is, he's been asked questions and he's answering them. That's what he's legally required to do. Well, maybe he's not yet. I suspect they haven't issued a summons yet, and probably prefer not to. People don't have to be nice, A lot of people get annoyed being called into court or things like that.
Yeah, as long as they go with the legal requirements of the process. What if you're living overseas or largely overseas? Are you beyond the reach of such an inquiry?
No. It might make things a little harder, because it's to commit the offence of failing to answer a summons, then the summons has to be lawfully served on you and all those sorts of things, which people will often or usually just, you flick me an email and that'll be enough. If someone really wanted to play games and say, no, you've got to get a police officer or sheriff or process server to find me and give me the document, so if you wanted to play games, my suspicion is, if they got to the point where the written answers they were getting were insufficient and they really needed to, get Jacinda Ardern along to answer questions in person, which was, effectively the thing you had with the Waitangi Tribunal. There were some written answers. It's like, come on, give us something.
I do remember, Graeme,
you don't even have to give us everything we want.
Yeah, I do, and I know the fellow involved. During the wine box inquiry, there was a person involved in running a company for favourites White in Hong Kong. He was a New Zealand citizen. He could not return to this country and did not return to this country because he was told he would be arrested and forced to give evidence at the wine box inquiry if he did, and he simply stayed out of the country. I think he got a dispensation for his brother's funeral, but he was went to the funeral and on a plane out. So these...
A little before my time as a lawyer.
Yeah.
I remember it existing, but...
Yeah. So the wine box got that. So, I'm thinking we probably will see Jacinda Ardern at some stage before the inquiry. I'm also wondering, Graeme...
it won't be the first Royal Commission she's given evidence at.
Yeah.
She gave evidence at the Royal Commission into the Christchurch terror attacks. Although that wasn't, sort of on video in public, the evidence they did that. Her evidence, I think, has been released. That's her written evidence was released, or at least people can ask for it. And I think people did ask for it under the OIA, and I'm sure bits of it were redacted for public, national security sorts of things. So it's not the first time Jacinda Ardern will have been in front of a Royal Commission. I doubt she was needed at sort of White Island. We had one into that as well, I think.
Yeah.
But
all right. Well, and I guess, there is the potential, and, I look online, often Senate hearings and House committee hearings are used as star chambers by politicians to grill bureaucrats and make them look silly, and you get these 2-minute clips of, the when did you stop beating your wife questions being put to public officials. And that is kind of a star chamber sort of publicity exercise, often.